Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Etienne, and today I'm back with a brand new video where I'm going to be discussing the hottest topic in world football right now, which is undoubtedly Kylian Mbappe versus Erling Haaland, and whether this has the potential to be the new Messi versus Ronaldo for the next upcoming era. Mbappe and Haaland have sparked an awful lot of anticipation and excitement for this potential new era after their phenomenal performances on the Champions League stage. Mbappe produced a phenomenal hat-trick against Barcelona in the recent first leg of the Champions League last 16. This was in a 4-1 away win for Paris Saint-Germain at the Nou Camp. And then of course the very next night, Erling Haaland had already stole the headlines by bagging a brace against Sevilla in a 3-2 away win for Borussia Dortmund in their first leg of their last 16 tie. And then ironically, in complete contrast, arguably the two greatest players of all time, Messi and Ronaldo, both left an awful lot to be desired with their individual performances that week. Apart from scoring the penalty, Messi had a very lacklustre game, hardly involved in any build-up or any end product for Barcelona on the night. And Ronaldo too certainly didn't have one of his better games, losing 2-1 away at Porto, didn't even get on the score sheet, and again had very little impact on the game. And I feel like with Mbappe and Haaland having such phenomenal individual performances, only for then Ronaldo and Messi to have such lacklustre and uninterested performances has potentially provided us with the biggest eye-opening and visible indication that this could well be the changing of the guard and the end of our current era and the integration of a new era in Mbappe versus Haaland. Now, when analysing Mbappe and Haaland, there's certainly similarities and differences within the way they play and the characteristics they possess. They certainly both have blistering pace. If the recent Champions League performances have taught us anything, it's that they both have it in their locker to score on the big occasion. But just how many games does it take these two on average to score? Now, Kylian Mbappe has played 213 first-team club games, including for Monaco and PSG. In this time, he has scored 138 goals, meaning that it takes, on average, Mbappe 1.54 games to score a goal. Now, if we compare this to Erling Haaland, he has played 135 first-team club games so far for Bruyne, Molde, Salzburg and Dortmund. Now, in the process, Haaland has scored 90 times, meaning that it takes Erling Haaland on average just 1.5 games to score a goal. So that's 1.5 games per goal for Haaland versus 1.54 games per goal for Mbappe, which is incredibly close. Now, looking at these numbers, I think astonishingly, both could still improve this statistic as time goes on and they further develop as overall goal scorers. Now, Mbappe is often required to play in multiple positions and often out wide, not just down the middle. He certainly has to bring more to the overall team, whereas Haaland is purely in there to score goal after goal. Haaland is simply always down the middle and only ever plays as an out-and-out number 9, meaning that he probably has a higher likelihood of being in the box at the right time to finish off a sweeping move. I think when predicting the future of Mbappe's career, he will also turn into more of a natural number 9. And perhaps then, in later years, when Haaland and Mbappe have further improved their finishing and are both only and simply playing right down the middle for their teams as their number 9, we could re-look at this stat and figure out truly who is the better goal scorer. Prediction-wise on this one, I'm going with Erling Haaland. I think he will, over time, score more goals than Kylian Mbappe throughout his career. He seemingly has all the ability and attributes required to go down as a truly iconic poacher. Now, one very noticeable difference between the two, physicality-wise, is their height. Mbappe stands at 1m78, which is 5'8", whereas Erling Haaland is a serious specimen standing at 1m94, making him 6'3". Now straight away, with Erling Haaland being 6'3", this should make him a real asset and threat aerially. And with that, combined with his ridiculous pace and killer instinct in front of goal, should make Haaland the absolute complete modern day centre forward. However, when looking at the Norwegian statistics, it's very surprising to me. Only 6 of his total 90 first team career goals have come from the striker's head, giving him a headed goals percentage of just 6.6%. Now for me, a centre forward standing at 6'3", this stat should be much better. I think this is an area where Haaland should be actively looking to improve, and if he was to improve these numbers, he would simply have everything. Cristiano Ronaldo really added the element of headed goals throughout his career, especially when going to Real Madrid. I think Erling Haaland should be looking at doing the same, particularly if one of, if not the, main weapon Haaland currently possesses, being his incredible pace, was to slowly fade away as he gets older. He could really add the ability to score consistent, countless headers to his already impressive arsenal. Now, as for Kylian Mbappe, he also has 6 headed goals, but from a total of 138. Now, from a positional aspect, you're certainly not as likely to be popping up with consistent headers if you're having to play off the left or off the right, as well as down the middle. And then of course we have the obvious fact that Mbappe is only 5'8". Not many players around that height over time have been known for their elite heading. So although only 4.3% of Kylian Mbappe's goals have come via his head, it's definitely understandable why it's that low. So it seems Erling Haaland is the one you want to bank on in terms of pure and raw goal scoring potential. But even just from watching Kylian Mbappe, you can clearly see there's far more to his game than just the ability to score goals. And this is clearly shown via Mbappe's assist record and dribbling statistics. From Kylian Mbappe's 213 first team appearances, he has managed to produce 75 assists, resulting in Mbappe on average playing 2.84 games before assisting one of his teammates. I think when looking at this, and then also looking at Kylian Mbappe's games per goal ratio, it truly shows just what a fantastic all-round forward he is. This makes Mbappe much more adaptable in terms of potential formation change and the ability to play with different personnel. Now, contrasting Mbappe, Erling Haaland has managed 23 assists so far in his career from the 135 club games, meaning it takes him on average 5.87 games to provide an assist for teammates. Now, you definitely could argue that Mbappe plays with much higher quality players, including the likes of world-class Neymar at PSG, and even when he was at Monaco, he was often up front with Falcao, who is also a lethal striker. So those chances he would be creating would be far more likely to end up in the back of the net, rather than turn into wasted opportunities, and therefore not registered as assists. But, having said this, I still expect the gap to widen between these two players in terms of assists. Mbappe certainly has the superior vision, and I also believe that his final ball could yet still improve, as well as, for the meantime, occasionally still being played in wider areas, all depending on what's best for the team at the time, utilising both his creative intelligence and his goal-scoring ability. Now, as well as assists and general overall creativity certainly going the way of Mbappe in the comparison between the two players, dribbling ability, and with that dribbles completed per game, also favours the Frenchman. This is shown quite convincingly when looking at the pair of their stats in terms of Champions League and League dribbles so far this season. In the Champions League, Mbappe has made 6 appearances, all in the starting lineup. And within these games, on average, he has produced 4.5 dribbles per game. Whereas with Haaland, he has made 5 Champions League appearances so far, starting all of them, However, he has only produced on average 1.4 dribbles per game. Even assessing their numbers domestically, Mbappe has made 17 starts in the French league and 4 appearances from the bench. Within these total 21 games, he has averaged 2.9 dribbles per game, whereas Haaland in the Bundesliga has made 15 starts and 1 appearance from the bench, and within these 16 games has only averaged 0.8 dribbles per game. So after looking at the stats for both games per assist and average dribbles per game, Mbappe is certainly the more creative of the two, and probably the better all-round footballer. Mbappe certainly has the added X factor when he's on the ball, and possesses more unpredictability to his game. Away from comparing and contrasting these two elite young players, the big question that everybody wants to know the answers to is what's next and what lies ahead for the world's two hottest properties in football. This is where the speculating gets a little bit juicy. Erling Haaland has a €75 million release clause that becomes active in his Borussia Dortmund contract in summer 2022. Now, if you ask me, €75 million is an absolute steal for Haaland, particularly for anyone that's buying him. He could be their number 9 and focal point to their team for the next 10 years. And with this clause not being active until next summer, we also need to take into account Haaland would have an extra year's development, and in my eyes, that £75 million by then could well be looking half price. Now, to make matters even worse for Borussia Dortmund, they're currently 6th in the Bundesliga and 6 points off 4th place, which is Champions League qualification. Would potentially missing out on Champions League at the end of this season force Dortmund's hand, and therefore require them to sell for financial reasons, as well as potentially Haaland himself thinking an exit is his best bet so that he can play Champions League football again. If Dortmund were interested in cashing in this summer, they would want at least 100 million, but the big question is, who on earth could afford to pay that figure in the summer transfer window while the pandemic continues? Real Madrid could certainly be one of those options. They're very much in need of a rebuild right now, and although Karim Benzema has been integral to everything positive that's come out of Madrid recently, especially since Ronaldo is gone, he is 33, and Haaland would be a significant upgrade for the next 10 years. However, I think the perfect destination for Erling Haaland is a certain Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. Sergio Aguero looks to be heading for the exit door, with consistent injuries affecting him this season, plus he's 33 in June. I think it's the right time for him to go, and the optimum time for Manchester City to sign his long-term successor. I think Haaland could be the final jewel in the crown for this Manchester City team, a true, real killer in front of goal that doesn't need 2 chances to score, and can finish off the countless chances that the wonderful Manchester City players continuously create. As we discussed already, Haaland also has frightening pace on the counter-attack, and also the ability to run in behind and stretch defences, all ideal attributes to play in the Premier League and for City. An outside bet could also be Haaland to Barcelona. Now, we all know Barca are in massive turmoil on and off the pitch, with big problems financially and also an ever-ageing, continuously underwhelming side. Barca will want to make some sort of statement this summer, proving that they are still one of the go-to destinations for European football. And Erling Haaland could be much more attainable than Kylian Mbappe, for example, with the latter being valued at approximately €200 million right now. That is certainly well beyond the reach of Barcelona this summer. Speaking of Mbappe, his contract expires in the summer of 2022, which is also the same time in which Neymar's Paris Saint-Germain contract also expires. The big question is, can Paris re-sign both of them with financial fair play and the ongoing pandemic? The answer is probably yes, and this should certainly be PSG's priority moving forward. And with this, in my opinion, Paris should forget the idea of signing Lionel Messi and concentrate on building a well-balanced and exciting side around their 2 superstars up front. I think, putting it simply, no one in world football is going to be able to afford to prize Mbappe away from Paris this summer. The only potential scenario I can think of where this could even be a possibility would be if Liverpool sold Salah and or Mane and then went all in on Mbappe. Liverpool's interest has been well documented in the media, however, it actually coming to fruition and Mbappe turning up at Anfield as their new record signing seems a bit of a stretch right now. But what a utterly mouth-watering prospect it would be to have Erling Haaland playing up front for Manchester City and Kylian Mbappe up top for the Anfield Reds, going head-to-head for the Golden Boot, the Premier League title, and potentially Player of the Year, and dare I even say, the Ballon d'Or. If they both came to England, this rivalry could somewhat match Lionel Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo back in the Barcelona versus Real Madrid days, where we got to see these two greats go at it multiple times each season, year after year. I think the sensible and logical play for Mbappe right now would be to stay at Paris for at least a couple more seasons. I mean, after all, he is a Paris boy born and bred, and it looks like finally this PSG team under the new management of Pochettino might really be developing in the right direction and have the ability to soon win that ever-elusive Champions League title. I think Mbappe is definitely destined for Real Madrid and to become a serious Galactico, following in the footsteps of his childhood idol Ronaldo. But what's the rush? Why not stay at Paris for the next 2 seasons, continue to develop your own individual game under the guidance of Pochettino, and hopefully watch this PSG team become more and more experienced and a threat in Europe, potentially winning a Champions League on the way, and then move to Real Madrid at the beginning of the peak of your powers at 24, in which time Real should be much further down the line in terms of their rebuild. Haaland certainly looks like the more likely to leave this summer, and if not this summer, certainly sooner. He's more financially attainable for many clubs across Europe, and his emotional connection to Dortmund is nowhere near as strong when compared to that of Mbappe's and PSG. One thing's for sure, whoever ends up getting their hands on these two golden boys will be very lucky teams indeed. So now, to finish off, it's time for me to stick my neck and reputation well and truly on the line and give my thoughts and predictions on their overall careers. Now, as I said earlier, if it's goals you're after, Haaland's your man. And I'm pretty confident he'll outscore Mbappe in terms of overall club career goals. His pace, power, finishing, and the added extra height, for me, gives him one up on Mbappe in this topic of debate. Particularly, like we discussed earlier, if Haaland adds headed goals to his arsenal. I even think Haaland has the ability to potentially eclipse the likes of Robert Lewandowski and Miroslav Klose to become one of the most outstanding in-the-box killers we've seen in European football ever. To counter this though, I certainly think Kylian Mbappe will win more career trophies and with that, more Ballon d'Ors. The clear advantage that Mbappe possesses over Haaland here is that he plays up front for France and not Norway. Mbappe already has 1 World Cup title, and who would bet against him winning at least 2 more? Not to mention Euro titles, in which France and Mbappe will be going there as red-hot favourites this summer. Playing for a top side in the Champions League, as well as playing for one of the elite international teams, provides Mbappe with 2 different global opportunities to market himself as the world's best player. And with that, I believe by the end of it, Kylian Mbappe would have acquired more critical acclaim throughout his career, and it will be deemed as the more iconic one. Mbappe certainly has this unique opportunity to potentially one day win the Champions League, the World Cup, and the Ballon d'Or in the same season, which on its own would surely make him one of the greats of all time. I think Mbappe will certainly be the more marketable player as well, whether that's down to his more overall well-balanced play style, his French connection, or an already impressive honours list. Neymar has actually just left Nike, moving over to Puma, and I think once Ronaldo has retired, Mbappe will be the face of Nike football. Now, I think it's also important that we don't expect the world from these 2 young players too soon, and that we're surprised if they don't exclusively win all the Ballon d'Ors between each other from next season onwards for the next decade. This is mainly down to the fact that there's so many other current world-class players out there, but more in their prime between the ages of 28 and 32, such as Lewandowski, Kevin De Bruyne, Mohamed Salah, and of course Neymar. We've also got current young players out there now that have every chance of becoming world-class themselves, such as Jadon Sancho, João Felix, and of course Phil Foden. If these players have anything to say about it, they too will want to be regarded as some of the best players in the world. I think the single most important thing for Mbappe and Haaland over the next decade is that they stay injury-free. Ronaldo and Messi were fortunate enough throughout their careers to avoid any major injuries on the whole, and because of this, we thankfully got to watch this phenomenal current era unfold in front of our eyes, providing some of the most iconic football moments the world has seen. And I certainly hope these two young talents can be just as fortunate in that sense. It is obviously unlikely that these two will end up being as individually successful as Messi and Ronaldo. With 11 Ballon d'Ors between them and 9 Champions League titles, it's easy to see why these two are named the GOATs by many. But with their frightening physical abilities, some eye-watering early stats, and serious elite mentalities, Mbappe and Haaland certainly look the most convincing cases we've seen since to take over the throne for the next decade. Thank you very much for watching, guys, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I have creating it. Make sure to let me know in the comments who you think will end up having the better career. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button, and if you want to see similar content in the future, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. But for now though, my name has been Etienne, and it's goodbye from me.